So for the second task, you need to download this spreadsheet. Hopefully. And mine popped up actually. I opened two of them, so I'm going to pull one of them over. And what we're going to do is kind of break this into multiple tables. That is our task. So just looking at our data, we have several different groups represented by the data. We have employees, we have departments, we have managers, and we also have performance. So we know we're going to need at least 4 tables here. So I'm going to create the tables using my little plus sign here. Double click on sheet 1 and I'm going to key in department. Press enter. Click on the plus sign, double click on sheet 2. This is performance. Click on my plus sign, double click on sheet 3. Let's see, I've got department performance. I need employee. And we'll click on the plus, double click on sheet 4. And I need manager. I'm going to press enter. So to start with, those are going to be 4 tables. So if I look back at my data, what I have for department, this looks like a name, which definitely needs to go in the department table. And you'll notice that I've got a lot of repetition here. I basically have plant, marketing, and corporate. So what I'm going to do is copy this. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to paste them by column A. I'm going to paste them in column B. And then I'm just going to get rid of anything that's repetitive. So I basically have 4 departments. So I'm going to click on marketing and grab a border here and just left drag it up. And I'll do the same. Actually, marketing is repeated. I only have 3. So I'm going to click on corporate and drag that up. So to identify these, it is better to use an ID. And so that is how we're going to go about doing this. We're going to have a number for each of these. And then we have the name. So actually, we can call this number, or you can call it ID. It doesn't matter. I might just call it department number. And this is actually the name of the department. And then we're going to pretend that we have a couple more. We have plant, marketing, corporate. Let's say we also have some retail outlets and a warehouse. Okay. And then for the number, I mean, you can number them, 1 through 5, or you can be a little creative. You can do PL for plant, MKT for marketing, CO for corporate, RT for retail, WH for warehouse. Okay. And I'm going to boldface these. And we might as well identify our primary key at this point, which is going to be department number. That has to be unique. Okay, and we do not have anything that repeats. Each line is unique. So we are in 1NF. We only have 1 primary key, so we are in 2NF. And we have no transitive dependencies, right? Because we only have 1 column. So it is totally dependent on the primary key. So that takes care of that table. Now we're going to kind of look back here. And I'm not going to worry about that column. Let us take a look. I think employee will be the next easiest one to do, because we have employee ID and name. And we do have a title for the employees as well. Okay, although we might pull that out into another table, we'll go ahead and use it. And let's see. We do want to know what department they're in, but we don't want the names. But we'll go ahead and copy that and change it. And so at this point, you'll see we have job description. We could put that for now in employee, but that definitely is going to have to change. So we'll go ahead and do all of this, but this is definitely going to need to change. So let's copy this, go into employee, come back, and then we'll get our job description, put that over here. All right, so the employee ID is unique, so we can keep all of that and make it our primary key. So that's fine the way it is. Then we've got the name. Now, typically in a database, it's pretty standard to separate out, your first name and last name especially for an employee. If it's a contact person in another company, you might have it together. So I'm going to separate them out, and I'm actually going to do middle initial as well. So this is just going to be first name. And we'll have middle initial, and then we'll have last name. So I'm going to pause this while I split all of these out. And basically for middle initial, I'm just going to make them up. So it doesn't matter what they are. All right, so I kind of split out the first name, made up a bunch of middle initials, did the last name. And you're going to need to do the same thing. And let's see, then we get over to department. We're going to skip title for right now. Department, instead of having the name, we're going to pull in the department number. And this is going to be a foreign key because we can use it to connect the employee and the department. So plant is PL, if I remember correctly. This was MKT. And that was CO. All right. So now we've got those in there. And let's just do a quick check for normalization, because that's where we're going to have a problem. So we've got employee ID as our key. So obviously the first name, the middle initial, the last name relate to the ID. The title would relate to the ID. Department also relates to ID, but the job description is really connected to the title, not connected as much to the ID, because if they change positions, that is going to change, okay? So that's a transitive dependency. So this is a problem. It means that we really need a job table or a position table that we can put the description and the title into. So let's create another table. And we'll just call it positions. And what we're going to be putting in there is title. So let's copy that over here. Although we don't want it in column A, because that would make a horrible key. And let's take the description and copy that over as well. And I'm just going to double click on this line to widen up my columns. All right, so let's give them a job code, and we will make that unique. And so that'll be our primary key. And you'll see we have some repetitiveness here. So we will get rid of anything that's not unique. So it looks like we have level 1 maker and counter. So here's a level 1 counter. We don't need that, right? All right, and then we've got a level 2 maker and counter. So I'm going to highlight this whole little group, and I'm going to position on a border and move them out of my way. So I've got maker counter. Here's a level 2. So I'm going to highlight that and drag it up. And to move these highlighted blocks, you're just positioning on the border. A 4-headed arrow is a universal symbol for moving, so you can left drag. So I've moved maker up here. Now I'm going to do my level 2 counter. And then I've got a level 3 maker. I'm sure I have level 3 counters as well, so I'm going to kind of go with this convention here. All righty. So then I have a plant manager. We might as well move them up. And it looks like I have a district manager. And I've got a rep who is a seller. Okay, so let me delete this. And we'll just kind of make up job codes. And let's see. So this will be level 1 L1 maker M. This will be a level 1 counter L1C. Level 2 maker, level 2 counter, level 3 maker, level 3 counter. Then we have a manager, plant manager, and a district manager. So let's just call the plant manager a manager because we have retail outlets. So I think we're just going to call them manager. Make it a little more generic. And we'll do MA here. And for a district manager, it's DM. For our seller, we're going to say SR for sales rep. And then I think we also need a corporate level. So we'll say CO, title is corporate. And we'll just put corporate for both. So those are like the big bosses. Okay, so at this point, we have all of our job codes, which are our primary keys. And then we can come over to employee. And we do not need title or description anymore. So I'm just going to delete description. And I'm going to change title to job code, which is a foreign key in this table. So then this guy is L1 maker, L1 counter, SR for sales rep. We're just doing an MA for a manager, L2 maker, L1 counter, L2, what were they? L2 maker, L3 maker, L2 counter, SR for sales rep, and district manager. Okay. So that looks pretty good for employees now. And we've got positions, and positions should be in 3NF because we don't have any repeating rows or repeating groups within a row. And everything is relating back to our primary key. So those all look good. We only have one key, so it is in 3NF. So we've got employee and positions are done. Department is done. So let's look at manager next. So right now we have nothing in manager. And if we look at our data, what we really need is a way to connect the managers who are employees with the employees that they are managing. So if we kind of look through here, we've got, let's see, who do we have as a manager? Judy Judson is a manager. Shaggy is a manager, so we have two. All right. So what we're going to need is managers' IDs. And that'll be a primary key. And we only have two. Okay. We've got 118 and we've got 125. Now you'll notice that we have a third person from corporate who is managing, who's a district manager, or they're managing Judy, okay? So we actually have three managers. This person is above employee IDs. So we've got 118, 125, and we're gonna have to assign Alan something. Let's go over here. So we know we've got 118, and we've got 125, and then we've got our corporate. So I'm just gonna give them all nines. Okay, so those are managers, and then let's say who they are managing. So this would be your employee ID. And so we know that corporate is managing Judy. Okay, and let's go back and look. Who is Judy managing? Okay, so managing George and Daphne. Okay, those two people. 124 and 117. Okay. So Judy is managing 124 and 117. So this is an example of a repeating group. We got one person and we have two values. So this indicates either a separate table, which doesn't make sense at this point, or we got to change our key a little bit. So what we're going to do is make the combination of manager and employee together a key. So if we do that, then we have to do Judy and the second person she's managing, I believe Daphne, like that. Okay, so this combination is now unique, right? They're both primary keys. So then Shaggy is managing a whole bunch of people. So we're just going to copy their IDs. I've got these two people. So we'll put them down here, and let's copy Shaggy's. I'm just using Control C and Control V. Alrighty. And who else? So we got those first two. Oh my goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. Now this is interesting. We have Shaggy managing himself. We're probably going to want to change that. Okay, so let's copy. And let's see, we're just going to paste this over here. And we pull Shaggy down here. That definitely has to change. And let me copy that. Paste. And then we'll pull all of this up. And then we'll pull all of this up. And if this alignment stuff bothers you, just highlight it and change it. All right, so now this looks pretty good. The only issue we have is Shaggy is managing himself. So let us assign Shaggy a different manager, because that absolutely makes no sense. So I think we're going to have Judy Jetson managing Shaggy. There. All right, now we fixed that little issue, and we do have all unique rows. And in this table, this is really all we have to have. Now, how do we connect the employees with their managers? Well, if we look at the employee table, we've got employee ID in here. So why don't we make that a foreign key too? So if we make the ID a foreign key, we are able to connect the employee with their manager. Okay, so we've got the positions, we've got the employee primary key here, and because we're connecting to manager, we can pull in who their manager is. And let's see. We also have the employee connecting to positions through job code, so we have access to that. We have the employee connecting to department, so we have access to the name. And the only thing that's missing here is performance. So let's see what deals with performance in here. So we've got this information for sure. And so let's copy and paste that. We're not going to do it in column A though. And let's see. We probably want their employee ID in here. So let's go back over here. Copy that. And I'm going to widen that up. And let's see. So an employee can have many different performance reviews. So we can make employee ID a key, but we also need to include something like date as a key as well. So I'm going to right click here on column B and insert a new row or a new column. And I'm going to call this review date and make that a key as well. So when you combine the employee number with the review date, it is going to be unique. And we could have a situation where we have multiple employees being reviewed on the exact same day. Okay. So that combination is going to be unique. I'm going to shorten this column name to assessment. And I think we can keep approval and comments the same. The only thing that we need to know is who did the performance review. So we're going to call this reviewer, and this will be a manager. So we're going to make this a foreign key. Okay, and we'll come over here to review date, and we will just pretend that they were all reviewed on the same day. So I don't really care what day you guys enter in here. Does not matter to me whatsoever. Now it changed it by 1. Here, we'll do this. All right, now they're all the same. And the reviewer, and I don't care what you guys put in there for dates. The reviewer is going to be their manager. So if we go over to the manager table and we look at our employee, their manager is 118. In fact, we can probably enter 118 for all of them and then just figure out who Shaggy isn't managing. Would probably be easiest. Okay, now that I've entered 2, I can highlight and fill them down. We'll just keep that one number. And then let's go look at who Shaggy is not managing. So 125 is managing 124, 117, and I think I mistyped that. They're also managing 118. So 117, 18, and 24. Let's see, 17, 18, and we said 24. They are all being managed by Judy. Then Judy, who is employee number 125, is being managed by all the 9s, which is corporate. So this is going to be 5 9s. Okay, so this is going to be connecting to manager. And at this point, I believe this is in 3NF. So let's just double check. We do not have any repeating rows or groups. Okay. And it's a composite key, so now we do need to check to make sure each column is dependent on both. Okay. And it would be assessment, approval, comments, and the reviewer all depend on the employee and the date combined. Because if it's a different employee, it could be a different reviewer. If it's a different date, it could be a different reviewer. Okay? And if it's a different reviewer, assessment, approval, comments, those could change, but the reviewer is dependent on the employee and the date. So they are all dependent on the employee and the date. Okay, so this is all in 3NF. So this looks good too. So at this point, we have all of our tables, and I'm just going to rename this first one and call it original. Okay, so the tables that we've split into are the ones that we would be doing the ER diagram on. Okay, and let's make sure we've identified primary keys and foreign keys. So we did there, we did there. Yep, so at this point, you would want to save this, turn it in, and your next step would be to do the ER diagram.